a new Spider-Man has risen, but his journey is far from easy. A city on the brink of chaos, a corporation hiding a deadly secret, and a friendship torn apart by tragedy. When power and responsibility collide, how far will Miles go to protect the ones he loves? This is the story of Marvel's Spider-Man, Miles Morales, a tale of loss, redemption, and the true weight of being a hero. Miles Morales takes a train home to Harlem and gets a text from his mom to grab groceries. On the way, he sees a mural of Spider-Man, but notices it only features Peter. He suggests adding his version too, then heads to Teo's bodega. Before he can buy anything, Peter texts him that a prison convoy is leaving early. Miles suits up and swings to meet him. As they follow the convoy, Rhino breaks loose, causing chaos. Miles tries to secure a helicopter carrying Rhino's container, but the wire snaps. But the crash frees Rhino and other prisoners. Peter fights Rhino while Miles handles the escapees. Rhino goes on a rampage, forcing Miles to chase him. Peter rides on Rhino's back, but the villain leaps into a mall, endangering civilians. He crashes into J. Jonah Jameson's podcast set, making him furious. In the middle of this, Miles' mom calls, reminding him about the groceries. Rhino smashes into a gas tank, throwing Miles into a pipe. Peter is badly hurt, and Rhino tosses him through a wall. Seeing this, Miles, in a burst of anger, unleashes his venom power for the first time, stunning Rhino. He fights back and eventually knocks him out. Roxxon and Simon Krieger arrive, congratulating the heroes before taking over. Later, Peter and Miles eat pizza on a rooftop. Peter tells Miles he's leaving town with MJ for a few weeks and asks him to watch over New York. Before leaving, he gives Miles a gift, marking the start of Miles' journey as the city's only Spider-Man. After defeating Rhino, Miles contacts Ganke Lee and informs him about the gift he received from Spider-Man. He decides to meet him at the amphitheater in Central Park. He changes behind some boxes while Ganke hides him from the public. While swinging to his destination, Miles listens to Danica Hart's podcast and becomes a fan when she praises his takedown of Rhino. At the location, a holographic Spider-Man introduces his first training session, focused on acrobatic combat. Miles practices air attacks and other moves to improve his fighting skills. After training, the hologram malfunctions, and thugs arrive to steal the tech. Miles defeats them, fixes the gear, and unlocks more spider training locations. Miles arrives at a Nuform reactor site, where a large screen of Simon Krieger explains that Nuform is a revolutionary fuel source capable of powering Harlem for 500 years. He plans to expand it across Manhattan and eventually worldwide. Suddenly, Miles hears a window break and rushes inside, but finds no one. He discovers a computer showing that someone was searching for Nuform. Before he can investigate further, an underground member ambushes him and throws him outside, where more enemies are waiting. After defeating them, Miles overhears the name The Tinkerer and learns they are tracking Nuform shipments. Roxxon security arrives, so he decides to investigate later and heads home for Christmas dinner. After his mission, Miles changes into his regular clothes on the roof and enters his apartment through his bedroom window. He sets up for dinner by turning on Christmas lights and playing music. When the doorbell rings, he's surprised to see his old best friend, Finn. During their reunion, the power suddenly goes out. Miles checks the circuit breaker, but finds no issue. He sneaks outside through his window and uses his venom power to restore power. Ganke quickly creates a distraction to keep Finn and Rio from noticing Miles' absence. During dinner, Rio asks Finn about her brother, Rick Mason, and Finn briefly looks sad before changing the subject. After dinner, while washing dishes, Miles notices Finn seems distracted, but she avoids talking about it. Since they haven't seen each other in a while, he suggests a friend date the next day, and she agrees. The next morning, Ganke wakes Miles up to show him the FNSM app, which allows New Yorkers to report crimes or request Spider-Man's help. Miles heads to the train stop where Officer Davis is working and learns about train disruptions. Davis mentions that the underground has been active in the area and now has a new leader, the Tinkerer. At Grand Central, Miles follows cables and finds the signals are being jammed. After disabling them, he discovers a crate of underground tech and uses it to create the holodrone gadget. His suit detects more tech crates around the city for future upgrades. After taking down more underground members, Davis reports that no trains are running, despite the restored signal. Miles heads to the train yard, defeats more enemies, and finds the controls destroyed. Using his venom power and webbing, he manually gets the trains back on track. Davis later offers Spider-Man a gift, but first, Miles must stop underground members planting bombs on the tracks. After defeating them, he receives an unlimited subway pass with his name on it. Davis reveals he knew Miles' identity all along, but promises to keep it a secret. With this in mind, Miles continues patrolling the city to help those in need. Finn and Miles lift a grate to reveal a hidden time capsule, but forget the combination. Miles recalls a memory with Finn and Rick in the same spot and remembers the code is the Fibonacci sequence. They open the box and find the reward they won for their energy converter invention. Still worried about Finn, Miles asks why they lost touch, but she avoids answering. Frustrated by her secrecy, he decides that next time they meet, he will get the truth. Miles and Genki attend Rio Morales' campaign rally, which is interrupted by the Tinkerer, who accuses Simon Krieger of being a killer. The underground launches an attack to stop Roxxon Plaza from opening, sparking a battle between them and Roxxon guards. Miles swings into action to stop the chaos. After defeating the underground, Miles spots an explosion at Braithwaite Bridge and rushes there, encountering the Tinkerer. Cornered, he uses his venom energy to escape and tries to take the new form canister, but the energy reacts violently, tearing off Tinkerer's mask, revealing Finn. Shocked, Miles is thrown into a truck of new form canisters, accidentally triggering a massive explosion that destroys the bridge. Finn flees, leaving her goons to fight Miles. After defeating them, he focuses on saving civilians trapped in the wreckage. He webs parts of the bridge together, uses a semi-truck as a platform, and performs a daring rescue to save a stranded person. As Roxxon guards arrive, they aim their guns at Miles without letting him explain. Suddenly, he turns invisible, escaping unseen. Angry at how he was treated, he heads home. The next day, though saddened by the events, Rio remains determined to continue her campaign. Inspired by her resilience, Genki encourages Miles to embrace his role as Spider-Man. They craft a new suit, and Miles swings through New York, ready to face the challenges ahead. After the events on Braithwaite Bridge, Miles sneaks into Finn's old repair shop and discovers a secret room with a computer. He finds two videos, one showing the harmful effects of new form and Finn's plan to expose it, and another where Finn admits the plan failed because her phone was damaged. Miles decides to track her phone for more answers, but before he can continue, the underground arrives. After defeating them, he finds the phone's location and swings away, unaware that the Prowler is watching him. Miles defeats enemies and absorbs energy to disable the building's shielding. Inside, he's surprised by the Prowler, who reveals himself as his uncle, Aaron Davis. Aaron warns Miles to leave, but Miles insists on continuing and asks for help. Aaron disables another shield, allowing Miles to overhear Simon Krieger pressuring a scientist to produce more new form. After defeating more enemies, Miles reaches the new form reactor and discovers multiple research labs across the city. He then finds Finn's phone and watches a video revealing that Rick and Finn tried to destroy the reactor, but Krieger let the energy kill Rick, leaving Finn devastated. Determined, Miles absorbs the reactor's energy, causing massive destruction and destroying Finn's phone. He escapes with Aaron, fighting off enemies along the way. As they flee on a train, Aaron advises Miles to get close to Finn and infiltrate the underground. Miles meets Finn at a coffee shop, telling her he understands her reasons and wants to join. She agrees and takes him to a rooftop, where he must prove himself by leaping from a crane to Fisk Tower. After succeeding, he is accepted into the underground. When Finn steps away, Miles investigates. Once she returns, he makes an excuse to leave, and later returns in costume, defeating enemies. Genki informs him of Fisk's secret passages, leading Miles to a hidden elevator. Inside, he overhears Finn and the underground. Using camouflage, he studies their hideout map, but is attacked. After defeating a sword-wielding enemy with a venom-powered dash, he notes the hideout locations and escapes. Miles plans to uncover Finn's intentions and take the new form from her. It's stored in an auditorium, but he first defeats enemies and drains generators blocking his way. Inside, he tries to retrieve the new form, but Tinkerer and her goons arrive. After fighting them off, Miles reaches for the vial, but Tinkerer easily knocks him away. A high-speed chase through Manhattan ensues, leaving destruction in their wake. When Miles finally catches up, Tinkerer draws her programmable matter sword and threatens him, until he unmasks himself, leaving Finn in shock. Depressed by his decision to reveal his identity to Finn, Miles calls his Uncle Aaron for advice. Aaron suggests a distraction in the form of completing the mixtape he and his brother never finished. Once he collected a sound sample, Miles asks Aaron why he and Jefferson separated. Aaron then promises to tell Miles the entire story once the latter finishes the mixtape. Miles wakes up at home and meets Finn at Trinity Church to discuss their plan. However, Prowler leaks their location to Roxxon, leading to Rhino, now upgraded with Roxxon armor, ambushing and capturing them. They wake up in a Roxxon lab where Krieger interrogates them. Working together, they escape, but Finn remains angry at Miles for lying to her. Meanwhile, Prowler confronts Krieger for breaking their deal and threatens to expose Roxxon, but Krieger warns that doing so would incriminate him as well. After retrieving her gear, Finn helps Miles escape. Miles powers up the facility's engine to break into the control room, but Rhino attacks. During the fight, Miles destroys Rhino's venom-proof armor and defeats him. As Miles examines Roxxon's reactor plans, he realizes Finn's plan could destroy Harlem. Rhino taunts Finn about Rick's death, pushing her into a rage. She nearly kills Rhino, but Miles stops her, causing her to turn on him, beat him down and leave, determined to carry out her plan. Injured, Miles calls Genki for help. Back home, his mother Rio discovers his secret identity and learns of Finn's plan. She accepts Miles as Spider-Man, encouraging him to fight for Harlem. With Genki hacking security cameras and Rio helping evacuate civilians, Miles heads to the Oscorp Science Center to stop Finn before it's too late. While on his way to the Oscorp Science Center, Miles gets kidnapped by his uncle Aaron Davis, disguised as the Prowler. He is then taken to a subway line where Aaron tells Miles to just let Simon Krieger and Finn kill each other. The two get into an argument, and after they battle, Miles tells his uncle that he can't turn his back on the city when they need him most. Miles learns that the final piece to Finn's weapons is a science project they created. He learns that this is the same project that helped them win the science fair back in middle school. He goes to the museum to retrieve it. Finn took her new form sample to Roxxon Plaza, planning to overload the reactor and destroy the complex. However, as Miles had discovered, Krieger had changed the reactor's specs, meaning that her overloading it would destroy all of Harlem. A redeemed Prowler arrives to assist evacuating all of Harlem's citizens who were trapped in the battlefield between Underground and Roxxon, allowing Miles to proceed to Finn without any interferences. Finn ignored Miles's warnings. Her trust in him eroded after he had previously lied, and battled him in the buildings of the plaza. As their battle continued, Simon Krieger broadcast that he did not care about the reactor going critical, as it would look good for the company if they had suffered a terrorist attack. This fueled Finn's anger further, and the battle continued, though she eventually saw that it was doing more damage than she had intended, and that Miles was right. Miles webbed her to safety after they both fell from the building, and he used his bioelectric powers to absorb the reactor's energy. Seeing Miles would not survive, and remembering a flashback of her brother's last moments, Finn has a change of heart and sacrifices herself by using her programmable matter boots to propel herself and Miles high above Manhattan. allowing Miles to safely release the reactor's energy stored inside his body, killing her in the process. As Miles' crash landed to the ground of a destroyed plaza, the neighbors of Harlem and Rio begin to rush towards him. To their relief, Miles survives, but mourns together with his neighborhood over Finn's death. As the news reporters arrive on the scene, the citizens of Harlem and Rio cover Miles' identity as Harlem Spider-Man from being exposed to the public. Just as Miles swings away from the scene,